Good day, children. Today we'll be doing the next lesson, the Blue Carbuncle. Tell me, do you all enjoy listening to or reading detective stories? What is a detective story, children? It is a mystery or a fiction in which an investigator or a detective tries to solve the mystery. Some famous detective stories are Harry Potter, Nancy Drew, or Sherlock Holmes. This lesson, The Blue Carbuncle, is about a mystery solved by Sherlock Holmes and his friend Dr. Watson. Before I start this lesson, I will give you a brief summary of this lesson, a short description of this lesson. There are many characters in the story. Sherlock Holmes got a goose from the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Peterson. On Christmas morning, when Mr. Peterson was returning from a party, he saw a stranger with a hat and he was carrying a goose. A gang of rowdies had a fight with him. And when those people saw Mr. Peterson in his uniform, they ran away. The stranger also left his goose and the hat and ran away. Peterson took the goose and the hat. On the bird's leg, there was a small card on which it was written, "For Mrs. Henry Baker." But it was not easy to identify this Henry Baker. So Peterson left this goose and the hat with the detective, Sherlock Holmes. The goose was later taken by Peterson. Holmes tried to study this hat and he draws many conclusions about the owner of the hat. As Holmes was talking to Dr. Watson, Peterson returns with a costly diamond, a very costly gem, the Blue Carbuncle. It was actually the Countess of Morcar's Blue Carbuncle. This diamond was lost in Hotel Cosmopolitan, and a plumber named John Horner was accused of stealing this Blue Carbuncle. Actually, James Ryder, an attendant in the hotel, had stolen this diamond and he hid it in the crop of one of the goose owned by his sister, Mrs. Oakshott. Mrs. Oakshott had sold this goose and somehow the goose reached Mr. Peterson. Later, Holmes, Watson, and Peterson somehow locate this James Ryder and finally he confesses his crime. John Horner was proved innocent and the Blue Carbuncle is given back to the Countess of Morcar. This is the basic story. As I told you, there are many characters in the story. For your convenience, this lesson is divided into 3 modules. The first module is from the beginning of the lesson till the end of page number 113. The second module is from the beginning of page number 114 till the second last paragraph of page 116. And the third module is from the last paragraph of page 116 till the end of the lesson. In this lesson, wherever they have used the word I, it refers to Dr. Watson, which means Dr. Watson is narrating the story. Can I start the lesson, children? Look into your book, page number 111. The Blue Carbuncle. Sherlock Holmes is a creation of the famous writer Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Together with his friend Dr. Watson, Holmes solves various cases. The text that you are about to read is one of Holmes' most famous cases. It has been narrated by Dr. Watson. Now this character, Sherlock Holmes, is actually created by a very famous writer, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He has written many mysteries, and both Sherlock Holmes with his friend Dr. Watson These two solved many mysteries. It's a very interesting book, children. If you can read any of the stories or the detective stories written by this Sir Arthur Conan Doyle about Sherlock Holmes, you will find it very interesting. There are so many movies also. The stories have been made into so many movies. Now, this lesson, The Blue Carbuncle, is one of the most famous stories, you can say, most famous mysteries solved by this Sherlock Holmes. Now, the first paragraph of this lesson. When I called upon my friend Sherlock Holmes on the second morning after Christmas to wish him the compliments of the season, I found him lounging on a sofa with a pile of recently read morning papers by his side. On the back of a nearby chair was an old and dirty hat, cracked in several places. A lens and forceps lying on the chair suggested that the hat had been closely examined. So now, it's Christmas season. So, 2 days after Christmas, Dr. Watson just called upon his friend Sherlock Holmes. He just wanted to wish him the compliments of the season, means the good wishes or the greetings for the season, the Christmas season. And when he went to meet him, he saw him lounging on a sofa. That means he was relaxing on a sofa, and there was a pile of newspaper lying by his side. And nearby only he found a hat, an old and dirty hat, which was cracked in several places. It was not a new hat. It was very badly used one, an old one. And there was a lens and forceps. I told you, he's a detective, isn't it? So he's very closely trying to examine this hat. He wants to get some clues from this hat. And then Dr. Watson was surprised. It's a Christmas season, isn't it? A festive season. So he's asking him, "Are you engaged?" I asked, which means Dr. Watson is asking Sherlock Holmes, "Are you busy?" Now, the next page. "Not at all. I'm glad to have a friend with whom I can discuss my results." He indicated the old hat and asked, "You know Peterson, the Commissioner of Police?" So when Dr. Watson is asking Holmes, "Are you very busy?" He's saying, No, I'm not busy. I'm very happy to see you. I'm very glad." Glad means very happy. So he's happy to have a friend, that is Dr. Watson, with whom he can discuss his recent findings. The word indicated means he showed the old hat and he asked, "Do you know Peterson, the Commissioner of Police? He's a famous man." Yes, that is what Dr. Watson is answering him. Now, the next paragraph. "He found this hat. Its owner is unknown. About 4 o'clock on Christmas morning, Peterson was returning home from a party down Tottenham Court Road. He saw in the streetlight a tallish man walking with a slight stagger, carrying a white goose over his shoulder. As he reached the corner of Good Street, a row broke out between this stranger and a gang of rowdies. One of them knocked off the man's hat. The man raised his walking stick to defend himself, and swinging it over to head, smashed the shop window behind him. Peterson had rushed forward to protect the stranger from the rowdies, but the man, shocked at having broken the window and seeing a police officer in uniform rushing towards him, dropped the goose and fled. The rowdies had also fled at the appearance of Peterson, so that he was left in possession of the stranger's hat and a fine Christmas goose. The word stagger means to walk unsteadily. A row broke out. Row means a sort of argument, a sort of fight, you can say. Rowdies refers to a group of noisy, unruly people. The word defend means to protect. Smashed means to hit badly something and to break it. Possession means to keep something, To take in possession means to keep something, to possess something. Now here, Holmes is telling Dr. Watson that Peterson, the commissioner of police, had found this hat, and the owner of the hat is unknown. He doesn't know who's the owner of this hat. And then is narrating the incident, how he got this hat, and along with this hat, he had got a goose also. So he's saying when Peterson was returning early in the morning, 4 o'clock on Christmas morning, he was returning from a party and he was walking down a street. The name of the road is Tottenham Court Road. And in that street light, he saw a man, a tallish man, a slight tall man. He was walking unsteadily. That man was wearing a hat and he was carrying a white goose over his shoulder. As he reached the corner of the other street, named Good Street, a group of rowdies came and attacked the stranger. A fight and argument sort of started, and one of the rowdies took this man's hat, knocked it off, means threw the hat down. Now, naturally, this man was shocked. He tried to protect himself, and he raised his walking stick and he tried to swing it at the rowdies. But what happened was that this walking stick hit a shop's window and broke it. Peterson was seeing all this thing. Peterson is the commissioner of police, isn't it? And he was in his police uniform. So he wanted to protect the stranger from the rowdies. So Peterson rushed forward to protect this man. But the man was shocked. He has already broken a window, isn't it? A shop's window. And moreover, it was an argument. So what happened? That man, old man, ran away seeing the police in uniform. Had dropped his goose also there. Already the hat had fallen down. When the rowdies also saw this policeman, they also ran away. So when Peterson reached that spot, the corner of the Good Street, he got the hat and the goose. All the other people had left. So what did Peterson do? He took that hat and the goose and he brought it to Sherlock Holmes. Now let's see what happens next. Did he not return them to the owner? Now, Watson is asking, why didn't this Peterson try to find out the owner of this hat and the goose and return it to him? Then what the Sherlock Holmes is saying, let's see. Though there was a small card tied to the bird's left leg with "For Mrs. Henry Baker" written on it, and it is also true that the initials HB can be seen on the lining of this hat. But with hundreds of Henry Bakers in London, it is not easy to find the owner of this property. So this property, the word "this property" refers to the goose and the hat. So Holmes is saying that, of course, there was a small note or a small card tied to the bird's leg. Christmas morning, no? So maybe the stranger is taking this goose for somebody named Mrs. Henry Baker. And HB is also written on the hat. But it's not possible, it's not easy to locate this Henry Bakers in London because there are many Henry Bakers around. So he couldn't hand it over to the proper owner. Now, the next paragraph. What did Peterson do? He brought around both hat and the goose to me on Christmas morning. The goose was kept until this morning, when there were some signs that it had been better be eaten without further delay. Peterson has therefore taken it away, while I continue to retain the hat. The word retain means to keep. So Watson is asking then, what did Peterson do with this hat and the goose? Then Sherlock Holmes is saying that he brought both the hat and the goose to me. Peterson knows that Sherlock Holmes can solve many mysteries like that. So he brought both those things to him. The goose was kept till that morning. That means 2 days after Christmas. But then there were some signs that it had to be better eaten. It was not a very healthy or a very fresh goose. So Peterson took it away and he left the hat with Sherlock Holmes. And now Sherlock Holmes is trying to study this hat, and he's trying to find many clues from this hat. Now, the next paragraph. What clues do you have about the owner's identity? Only as much as we can deduce from this hat, he said. The man is highly intellectual, and he was fairly well-to-do within the last 3 years, although he has now fallen upon evil days. He had more foresight formerly. Both these facts indicate some evil influence at work on him. This may account for his wife having ceased to love him. The word deduce means to draw conclusions. Fallen upon evil days means he's having a bad time now. Intellectual means very intelligent person. Foresight means a man of vision. The word formerly means earlier. Ceased means to stop. So now Watson wants to know, what did this Sherlock Holmes try to find, or what did he get from this hat? What could he learn from this hat? So he's asking, what did you draw? What conclusions could you draw from this hat? You were observing it with a forceps and with their lens and all, isn't it? So what did you get from this hat? So he's saying that. Now Sherlock Holmes is saying that the man was a highly intellectual man, and he was very rich or well-to-do initially, previously. But within the last 3 years, now he has fallen upon bad days. Now he's not really a rich man or a very wealthy man now. He is having a tough time these days. The owner of the hat. I'm talking about the owner of the hat. The owner of the hat was a man of vision earlier. Now he doesn't look like a very intelligent man. He was rich earlier and he was an intelligent man earlier, but now he is not so. So these facts indicate that some evil influence or some things are working at him. Maybe that is the reason his wife has stopped loving him. So Dr. Watson was shocked to see what conclusion did this Sherlock Holmes has found out from this hat. So he's saying, my dear Holmes, he's so shocked. He's saying, my dear Holmes, what is this? What are you talking about? Now let's see what Holmes is talking in the last paragraph. He, however, retains some degree of self-respect, he continued. He is a middle-aged man who leads a sedentary life. He anoints with lime cream his grizzled hair, which has been cut within the last few days. So Sherlock Holmes continued talking, whatever things he could find out from his investigation about the hat. He's saying that the owner of the hat is a man with some self-respect. The word sedentary means a lonely, inactive. Sedentary life means a lonely life or a very inactive life. The word anoints means applies. Anoints with lime cream means he applies lime cream on his head. Grizzled hair means grey hair. So he's saying the owner of the hat is a man with some self-respect. He's a middle-aged man, and now he's leading a very lonely, inactive life. He applies lime cream on his grey hair, and recently his hair has been cut. Can you imagine, from a small hat with some forceps and lens, this man has found out so many things about the owner of the hat. Isn't he a real detective, children? And Dr. Watson is shocked, surprised. What is this Holmes talking about? One torn and tattered old hat he has got, and he's saying so many things about the owner of the hat. With this, I come to the end of the first module.